And welcome back to Acme's Funniest Person podcast, the podcast about an amateur contest that's been going on here at this club for getting close to 35 years now and has produced some of the best comics in the country. The contest, of course, coming back for another year, and so we've got another great group of guests to talk to who've all done the contest. Today, we have my buddy James Stanley.
Woohoo!
Woo! I need a little button I can push to get a little, like a soundboard button to get a little clap.
Cool.
You've worked at Acme for what now? 3 years?
Going on 3.
Going on 3? Because you got hired at the end of 2020?
I got hired everything opened back up, and then I got hired a few months after that.
Yeah. Did you get hired, and we'll get to the contest in a second, but did you get hired here, was it in that gap, pre-vax, post-lockdown, between the lockdowns, or was it after the second lockdown?
It was after the first lockdown, I think I got hired.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
Because I remembered... Because I was getting fives at the mic in 20. I started in 2018. Started getting fives at the mic.
Yeah, that's when you started. When did you? We'll go back to this. Okay. When did you start? Start. First mic ever.
I started doing mics in 2013.
Okay, yeah. When did you start coming here? Well, when did you start signing up every week here?
Every single week, I probably started signing up. Maybe. I mean, I was spotty, in the first couple of years because I was 16 in high school.
Yes, of course.
Very mentally ill. And then I would say I really started signing up every week around 2015. Oh,
okay. That's not, yeah. It's because time is a blur for me because I was here for all of it, but I don't,
Yeah.
And of course, for a while, it was that guy that you see around.
For sure.
And then you did the change, and we'll talk about you trying to change your look too. So then I was like,
oh,
that's the same guy as the other guy.
Yeah. But I started getting fives in 2018.
Yeah.
So then in 2020, I was, still getting fives.
Yeah.
And then everything shut down. And when everything opened up, I was like, okay, I'm only going to go to Acme. This is the only mic I'm going to, because I was horrified of the,
exactly.
Nobody knew what was happening.
Right.
And I was like, I'm just going to go to Acme because I want to get hired there.
Sure.
And thankfully I did. So.
Nice. Yeah, this was the only place that I went on occasion. I would come. Although I did 1 week at a club in St. Louis because I needed to go visit my family. So I did the thing where I did all the testing or whatever, and then I drove to visit my family, and we were in a little hermetically sealed bubble,
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, I need to pay for this trip, and this club wants me to work here. So then so that way, if I had to, I was not going to get my family sick or whatever.
Right.
But then I just went and it was wild because I was genuinely locked down. I didn't go anywhere, for the most part. I came here a few times.
Yeah.
But then in the middle of all that of being so careful, I just did a full club week.
Yeah.
With 5 shows.
And
I know, it was fine. But it was weird. I remember being like, oh, this feels strange.
Yeah.
But it was a nice relief to
yeah.
Because it was in Missouri where they didn't have the pandemic. I don't know if you're aware.
Sure.
They skipped that.
Texas,
and I was
Florida.
like, oh, it's full.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. It really helped people like me, Max, Aiden, who were not hired but getting fives and coming out. Because when you guys, the people who worked here, stopped coming out.
Yeah.
We were just getting fives and sevens every single week.
Sure.
Which, there's 5 people in the crowd each week.
Yeah.
But, we showed up every single week, and I think that helped and looked good.
Yeah, no, definitely. But okay, so let's go back to the contest, and then we'll work our way back forward. So you started when you were 16, you say, and so you probably this is the only place you could even get in at the time, really, right?
I came here in the joke joint.
Right, of course. So, yeah, you could get into the joke joint at the time.
I went to the joke joint every Wednesday. I would do the workshop, usually not get on the mic, and then just kind of hang out there. But I counted the workshop as stage time.
Oh, it was. Absolutely. It was great for a new comic.
It was packed with comics and some people sometimes.
Yeah. You still had to walk up. Well, just for people who don't know, there was a club here in town called the Joke Joint, RIP. But they did this workshop, and it was cool because you would get you would go up on stage and do a 2-minute set, and then people would critique you. But when you're new, having somebody call your name and walking onto the stage and talking into the microphone, taking it out.
Pretty much a mic.
Pretty much a mic.
And then Julie,
more people than the average New York open mic.
Yeah.
Honestly.
For real. And more comics than the average New York open mic, probably.
It was a nice service. It's funny, I look back on that as a guy who I ran an open mic, used to go to, and I was like, God, that workshop would be painful to run.
Yeah. But it was nice because not only were a bunch of good headlining comics would show up and give people advice, but Rachel and Julie and Ken, the people who booked the club would watch you.
Yeah.
So
no, that was when I started. I would always go to the Joke Joint workshop, which was on Sundays at the time, and that was kind of my prep for Acme when Acme was a Monday open mic.
Yeah.
So it was I never wanted to skip the workshop because I always wanted one more chance to run the jokes I was gonna fingers crossed get to do if I got up at Acme.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were coming here a lot, and then you did the contest. We were talking off mic earlier. You can't remember exactly when.
I can't remember. It was sometime in between like 2013 and
Sure.
2015. I did it twice. I did it 2 years.
So do you think you were like 16 or 17 the first time you did it?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe
like 18.
18 or 19.
Yeah.
Do you recall if you did it back-to-back years, or do you think you took like a year off?
I think I took a year off because when I was in 2013 or 14, I was in like hospitals for like a good chunk of the year because I was dealing with like really bad like OCD stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to I was in Milwaukee in like a hospital that specialized in OCD. So I like wasn't able to do mics or go to school or anything.
Like a Victorian lady with consumption back in the day. You were recuperating.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And then when I got back from the hospital, because I was there for like 4 months or something. I was in and out. I like went to the Mayo at one point to hold me until like the other place opened up. And then I went there for 4 months, and then I came back home for like a few months, and then I relapsed, which is whatever. And then I went back there for like another couple months, and then I came back. And when I came back, I was just like really anxious and didn't want to do anything.
Sure.
After being
of course.
gone.
Did you like get your GED, or did you like take high school classes while you were?
I did not take any classes in the hospital. I didn't do any kind of school. Maybe like an hour a day they would kind of do something with us.
Yeah.
But I graduated on time, full like high school diploma, everything's
interesting.
legit. Yeah.
So they basically were just like, this was hard. We'll give you. We'll spot you the year.
Basically.
Sure.
I didn't have. When I came back to school, I didn't have like math or English. Like they were basically just like, just show up. And I didn't
tax you too much.
I didn't do any homework. Almost all of senior year, I didn't have any homework. Didn't do math or English. And I feel because I missed like a year and a half of high school.
Yeah.
And so I never read Huckleberry Finn. I never read Lord of the
There's
Flies.
a couple words in there you're not supposed to say, by the way. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, I know about that.
You missed some wildness.
Yeah. Thank God. Honestly, I hated high school so much. I'm glad I went to hospitals. I would have rather been in the high school working on my mental health than like being like bullied in high school.
Sure.
An extra year and a half.
Classic. Most comics, in my experience, are smart people who could be good academically and sometimes are, but almost always hate the actual experience of school.
Skin of my teeth, graduated high school with like a lot of help from like the school being like, all right, he's all
social
fucked up.
promotion is what they call that in the South. I don't know.
But then I did went to college, dropped out, went back for graphic design, graduated 4.0 GPA.
There you go. See, that's what I mean. I think most comics, almost every comic I know, could do quite well in school if they wanted to.
Like it.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them do, but most of them, I'm sure Mary Mack did she has like a master's degree.
Oh, cool.
But then like, I'm going to guess, let's say our buddy Nate Abshire wasn't maybe the shining student, he's a smart fellow, but I'm guessing was a handful in high school. I wasn't quite hospitalized like you, but I did maybe the coup of high school for me. My friends still make fun of me, but like with a jealous tone to this day.
Sure.
My therapist was one of my friend's dads.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I knew him really well, and also he's my shrink or whatever. And one time I was talking to him about like how math was stressing me out, because I all this stuff, and he was just like, I think I can fix that. And he basically wrote me a note that said I was too crazy for math.
They're magical. Therapists can do anything.
I know. My friends couldn't believe it because the school just made an exception. Like I was supposed to have like 3 years of math or whatever, and they were just like, nah, dog, you're good. And they just let me take some English classes, and I graduated, and I went to college, and everything was fine.
My therapist got me out of jury duty.
Nice. They should be able to get you out of jury duty.
Because I was like, and it was like, it was right in the peak of the pandemic too.
Oh,
and
sure.
I was like, I'm gonna kill myself if I have to do this. So I was talking to my therapist, and I was like, I got something for jury duty. He's like, you don't have to do that. I'll tell him you're too fucked up. I was like, okay, perfect.
There are many advantages to go to a therapist.
Yeah. They can just like write you a thing so you can have a pet anywhere if they don't allow
That's
pets.
true.
Yeah.
It is kind of like a get out of jail free, or it's like a magical
They're
pass.
like above the law. It's crazy.
Yeah, like a genie. You're
it's
like,
really cool.
Rub
so
the
if I
lamp.
ever find an apartment that's like good deal, good location, but they don't allow a cat and I want a cat,
There you go.
I can have a cat.
Emotional support cat.
Yep.
Honestly, I have an emotional support cat. I don't think that's weird at all. my cat Gatsby was doing double duty today. So yes, okay. So you graduate. So but you were coming here in high school though during that same period. So like when you were back from the hospital or whatever.
I remember like Cy being here every week.
Sure.
And, like, Chad Daniels would pop by more often than he does now, and I saw Swartzen a few times.
Definitely. So you were What drew you to stand up? Because it's interesting, obviously there's in a certain way you would think it would be the least likely thing for you as like a nervous person.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the only way I survived in school was like being funny.
Sure.
And, like, making people laugh. And I just, you know what? I never went to a live comedy show until I like started, like, I never like watched comedy all that much. I would watch like, I really started watching it once I started doing it. But I pretty much went to my first mic. So I had a friend that he was my friend since like 3rd grade, and he wanted to do stand-up too. Oh. So we both started doing mics together. And then like a year or 2 in, he moved to Chicago, and then he quit. And then he was just in Chicago. Now he does real estate here, which is kind of like the pipeline.
I would say, boy, if you want to, half of the realtors used to be comics. I feel like my theory, you already have the headshots.
Yeah.
It's just I've got these headshots laying around. It's also, I think, real estate, much like stand-up, not really a job. You know, it's a lot of pretending you have
like
a job.
All you kind of do your own thing.
You talk a lot.
Yes,
you got to be charming.
Yeah.
I'm not bagging on the realtors. I love not having a job.
Yeah,
I kind of don't think they do either. They get paid better than us in a lot of ways for not having a
lot
job.
better.
Yeah,
yeah, but I feel like that helped me start coming out.
Sure.
Or not helped me. I would have done it anyways, I think. But
I think it's
it would have made it
helpful to have a buddy.
To have a buddy.
Yeah.
We're both don't know anybody, so.
Yeah. I started in Chicago. I went to a few mics when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And I would remember seeing like Kumail when he was an open micer and Pete Holmes and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think I definitely would have continued doing comedy and like would have gotten into it back then, but I had no buddies who did it.
Yeah, and it sucks.
It sucks
when no one knows you. Like when my friend moved, I was just like 17, 18-year-old coming out to mics, and nobody gave a fuck about me. Like I had no friends.
As they shouldn't, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Look, when I started, it's like, oh look, it's another random white guy. Woo!
Like maybe some people will be nice to you, but no one's gonna like book you on anything for a while.
No, or no one's really gonna acknowledge you beyond like, what's up, dog? What's up, dog?
Exactly.
How's it going, boss?
There's a few people that were very nice to me when I started, and I'll always remember them.
Who out of curiosity?
David Harris.
Wonderful human being.
Ali took me, Sultan took me on the road for the first time. Mike Early took me on the road pretty early on.
Acme's Mike Early.
Yep. Yeah, David Harris was always very nice to me.
Well, he's a really nice guy.
He was,
suspiciously nice. Something's up with that guy.
yeah. He's got something coming
Magic.
out.
He's hiding things. He's got secrets.
Joke joint. Everybody had the joke joint, like Chad, Julie, maybe not Ken, but Rachel. They were all very. That was the first club I got hired at. When they
that was back in the day in Minneapolis, in a specific time period because they were only open for maybe 10 years. That was the first club. That was your
because you'd go to the workshop, you'd get on the mic, you'd host the mic, you get guest spots on the show.
They did those short and they did those short MC spots.
Yep.
So like
that was so nice.
You didn't need much time.
I didn't have 15. I had like 10.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then sometimes they'd be like, do 7 to 10, and I'd be like, okay, 7.
That was a pretty standard progression, and that was also when that was the only other club.
And it was awesome because you got do you remember when they booked MCs for like the month?
Oh yeah, I used to do those. I did 2 of those months early on.
They paid like $100, but it was like you got all these host sets in.
20 shows basically. Yeah, it was great prep. I remember. Yeah, back in the day, we're doing that, and then I got hired here. I'm like, oh my god, I'm working so much.
Yeah, and I worked with some cool people there. I did a guest spot for Tim Meadows when he was there.
Oh.
I opened for Michael Palisak, Johnny Beaner, this other guy, I can't remember. He's got a movie or documentary called Be a Man. You might know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. But, I worked with a lot of cool people and, like, people that now headline here.
Sure.
And, it helped a lot. It helped me become a stronger comic and...
Did you when you first started going on stage? Because you're pretty nervous and you have Tourette's, right?
Yeah.
So you have
tics, Tourette's.
Yep. And and you also have, you don't have like a speech impediment of any kind, right?
No.
You speak obviously very clear, but like
so
obviously
here's the thing.
That's so scary.
Like
that's scary for most people.
I did not have tics on stage until like last year.
Interesting.
It just never happened on stage.
Do you think it's because you're really comfortable?
I think
it's
that's what it is.
Ironically, because you're comfortable.
Also, I feel like my mental health is declining a tiny bit.
Yeah,
and I
don't
think
like that.
The Tourette's is just getting worse. And
I'm call my therapist. They'll get you out of math.
Yeah, but Yeah, I really. So when I first started, I was very monotone, very like Mitch Hedberg. I one-liners.
Sure.
My head was down a lot. I was very uncomfortable. I had like the long hair. People said I was like. They compared me to Mitch Hedberg sometimes, but I
Sure.
didn't like tell jokes in it. It was like my
Right.
own, you know.
Oh, I
but
think any one-liner comic with long hair, you're getting the Mitch Hedberg thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Worse comparisons could be made.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. But you liked it right away then.
Oh yeah,
much.
I loved it.
So
And I was like not particularly great at it right away. But
honestly, though,
I was
almost
this is
no,
awesome.
like literally, like fucking Andy Dwong, that
Yeah.
asshole. Other than that,
Yeah.
he's like the only person who was good.
Yeah.
Right? Him and Brooks Robinson.
Yeah.
Everyone else is so bad at the
Yeah.
beginning. So then you sign up for the contest, then probably pretty soon.
Yeah.
Right. Like probably your first.
So
year.
I mean, like I said, no one talked to me that much, so I didn't know about the contest
Right.
for a while. And when I was in it, when I finally figured out about it, like kind of on my own, I didn't know that you could go to the mic that week and get on.
Right.
No
of
one
course.
told me that. I have no idea. So I was just like, I just did the contest.
Yep.
I remember the first or second time I did it, Greg Coleman was hosting. Yeah, never advanced, never won my night, but had fun, had a good time.
Did good sets.
Yeah, I think so.
Calibrated
From
for
what
the time.
I remember,
Yeah.
I remember having like fun and being like, okay, I might maybe have a chance at winning the night.
And it is a different vibe, even if you've done the mic a bunch of times.
Yeah.
When you come up from the curtain, well, actually, they don't now. Now you have to come up from the aisle. Back in the day, you used to
Back
come
in
up
the
from the
day,
curtain.
you got to come up from the
Been
curtain.
discussed many times on this podcast why that doesn't happen anymore because of
Yeah.
all the weirdos in the green room.
Yeah, dude, I remember this one guy. It was the year Coleman was hosting. He had some good joke he closed on saying that people say he looks like the guy from Breaking Bad, and then he had tearaway pants and he ripped his pants off, but he forgot to take everything out of his pocket, so it smashed against like the metal on top of the stage, and it sounded like a gunshot. And then he got so scared he just went back behind the curtain, and then Greg Coleman like slowly kind of came out from behind the curtain and kind of like looked around, and he was like, What did that guy do? Like, what happened? It
Greg's never
was
told me
crazy.
that. That's so funny.
Oh yeah.
So he had like probably like a lighter and a cell phone and some change
yeah,
in his
yeah,
pockets
some
or something.
keys, and it's just bam,
That's
like
so
right on the metal.
Funny. I bet one of those scratches is from that.
Yep.
That's
Dude,
so
probably.
funny.
And then Greg was just like he didn't know what happened.
Oh, yeah.
He just heard a giant shot, and then a guy with no pants runs out behind this curtain, and yeah.
That's fantastic.
That
And
guy
that's
didn't win.
It's worth. I think it's fun hosting during the contest for those moments.
You know,
'Cause, like,
interestingly, I think I hosted like one or two nights of the contest. My whole time
we talked
emceeing
about
here,
that one time Yeah.
because there was just like a stretch of weeks I was getting where it was like, well, this person's filming. Well, this person's preparing for this.
Right.
Well, this person didn't want to do the contest night. Well, this is a blah, blah, blah. And it
Yeah.
just were panned out where like I almost never hosted the contest.
Yeah, and then once you feature, it's like
Yeah, then you're done.
Yeah, and then even if there is a contest, you don't really,
Yeah.
you're just doing your spot anyway.
Yeah.
I host. I always love hosting during the contest.
Yeah.
Um,
It was fun the few times I did it.
yeah.
Actually, the one time I hosted the contest was when I was already featuring, but Jade Cottapretta came through and requested me to host again
yeah.
for her. And that's when I hosted the contest, when I like, got the bump, which is kind of funny.
So you both times first round bounced. Did you take it? How did you respond to not winning? Were you just like, yeah, that happens?
I didn't care.
No, I
didn't
mean,
care
I
at
think
all.
that's a great attitude,
Yeah.
and but some people take it
I think
really
the
hard.
second time I did it, I was a little like,
Because you've done it long enough.
because
then
I had like 3 friends, and I think my dad and maybe my grandpa came. I had like a few people that were there
Yeah.
for me, and I was like, whatever.
It's such a quandary. Do you bring your people out to the contest?
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
in a way, it's so nice to have the support or whatever.
Yeah.
But then also by nature of doing the contest,
Yeah.
you're green, and so like, do you want to? How
Yeah.
do you? If everyone's going to see you.
Everyone's going to see you lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I most people do bring a big chunk of people,
Yeah.
and I think that's probably. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the better way to go about it.
Yeah.
I think you should bring people to the contest, but you should try to probably do some sets before the contest somewhere else. Don't bring people to a regular open mic.
No.
The contest is a nice controlled setting for you.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
look your best.
Yep.
But
There's
man,
no, like, crazy
those people who
people.
first start off and they're like bringing their coworkers to like back in the day like
Yeah.
Grumpies or like Red Menace or with my mic.
I
It was
hated
like
that.
it's brutal.
I always felt like secondhand, like uncomfortable, like very like.
It made you feel bad for you doing your set. You're like, I know you're just here to be
Yeah,
nice to this
yeah.
person, but
Yeah.
Um,
But then again, you're like, there's people at the mic.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's
There's
how there are
like
people at
12
the mic.
real people at the mic.
Yeah.
And hopefully the host is putting them towards the end so they stick around the whole time.
Yeah.
That's what I do at my mic. I'm like, oh, you're fantasy football? You're going at the end.
Oh, 100%.
You brought 20 people? You're going at the end.
100%.
Yeah.
So then you did the mic or the contest a couple times, didn't advance, and then when did you start working? Because obviously once you get paid, you can't do the contest anymore. Probably 18, maybe?
2018, I think I got hired. 2017 or 18, I got hired at the Joke Joint.
Sure.
And then 2018, started getting fives here. And
so then the contest is out at that point, obviously.
Yeah,
so now you're
for
just
sure.
trying to get hired here. Just
Yeah.
the regular old.
And
show up
I
to the
wasn't
mic.
even like actually trying to get hired here for a while. I was just like, I just want to get on the mic more.
Interesting.
And because, well, I was so new and I didn't like know a lot. Like people didn't really talk to me that much. I was very shy. I didn't like know you could like work here. Like it didn't like seem like like when I started, I was just like, oh, this is just the mic. There's the people who do the shows. Like it
You're
seemed
not
like
alone.
unobtainable, and like I didn't know what working here like meant exactly. But I was just like, I just want to, I just want to like get fives on the mic. That'd be cool.
Oh,
And
totally.
then-
Just the other night, we were after the Tuesday mic. We were. I was hanging out with some people. Standing around. They were hitting vape pens or whatever. And some people came out and they asked us. They're like, "Oh, you guys are great. Where can we see you?" And it was
Yeah.
like it was. I don't remember, it was all Acme people. It was
Yeah.
like me and Grant, and it might have been you.
Sure,
actually, I don't
sure.
know. But I was just like, we were like, "Oh, well, we all work here." And they were like, "What do you mean?" And we're like,
Yeah.
They were like, "So you're like janitors at night?"
Yeah, you
and
like,
we're
do the dishes,
like,
and then
no,
they
no,
give
no.
you
We're
time
the
to-
comedians, and
Yeah.
we work here.
Yeah.
But some people find that weird. That like it's like they have a
Yeah.
hard time imagining that the free Tuesday people.
Yeah.
If we wear a nicer shirt on Wednesday and we do more time.
Yeah. And then, I didn't really exactly know how you got to do the shows here or any. And then, I think I remember like they started to like hire people, and I think like Mo and Ahmed got hired eventually, and I was like, oh, okay. So, and then I kind of figured out that like the mic is like the pipeline to work.
Very
here.
much so. Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
when I started getting fives, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna crush as much as I can.
Yeah.
And then I think like my first five just destroyed, like did my best five. And then the second five I got, which was like a few weeks later maybe, I like did a different five. But I was just going to crush. And then Ali came up to me. He was like, what are you doing? And he's like, you're getting the fives. You got to like start working on new stuff. You got to like work. You got to write more.
Great advice. He's right.
Yeah. And no one told me that until he mentioned that. I had no idea what to do. I didn't know the strategy. So then I was just trying to bring like a new five at the mic every week, and I was just like, it was probably the 2018 to like 2021 was the most I've ever written.
Sure.
I think. I mean, I'm like writing more now, but I was like, I mean, most of it was dog shit, but I was like, I need to have something new.
Yeah.
And I was just like writing as much as I could. I would be like on the road with my friends, and I'd just be all I'm working on like the new five I'm going to do at Acme that week.
You kind of have to because
Yeah.
that's what everyone else is doing,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's the other thing is that I look back on the periods where I wrote the most good jokes. It's always
Yeah.
the same time I wrote the most bad jokes.
Yeah.
It's because I just wrote a ton of jokes.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like even now I think my batting average is a little higher. Because sometimes you have an idea and you go,
Yeah.
I know how to structure that,
Yeah,
or like,
yeah.
well, that's not really a stage
And even the
joke.
bad jokes will work, kind of. But like
yeah.
you toss them because you're like, these don't kill.
It's
as
like a
hard as
3.5, and
Yeah.
you're like, well, it's not a failure, but like I don't
Yeah.
think that's going anywhere.
Yeah.
But even still,
Maybe if I had to like back against the wall, do an hour, maybe I'd throw some of the.
even
like,
still though,
weaker
sometimes I
things.
write something and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna crush, and it's just nothing.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I do something out of sheer desperation just to fill the time at an
Yeah.
open mic, thinking this is the stupidest thing I've ever said,
And then it kills.
It's in the act.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's weird that you would think that would become at some point you would just know
Easier.
but
Yeah.
it's easier. But
I think
still
it's like
not.
a confidence thing for me
Yeah.
at least. I think it's like, well, I think this is gonna be funny, but I don't think it's gonna work, and then it'll work, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I always heard
Sick.
of Chris Rock. Obviously, he didn't tell me this personally, but when he works on new material, he delivers it really low energy.
Really? Okay.
He says he intentionally does that because he knows that if he goes out there, and obviously people know he's Chris Rock.
Yeah.
But if he goes out there and Chris Rocks it up, he's got this great character. He's got this great delivery.
Yeah.
If he does the repeating the punchline and stalking around and doing the voice and all of that.
You kind of have to downplay it when you're at that level.
He said you can't get a read on the
people that are
material.
like, well, they love you already.
Right.
Once they see you.
So because he wants to.
You have to have like a handicap. Like you have to like. Yeah. I feel like that makes sense.
Because he wants to know if the material's good.
Yeah.
So then he can Chris Rock it up. So apparently when he does the new material, he really tries to just like, here's the idea. And then obviously if it gets a big pop, and it's like, because I feel like at this point, I can sell some bullshit now.
Yeah.
I can kind of like, you might get to the end and be like, hey, that joke didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But I can trick you on the way there to think I look like I know what I'm doing.
My strategy when I'm working on new stuff, I'll open with one thing I like. It doesn't have to be like my strongest joke, but it's got to be quick and it's got to be a joke I like doing at the moment.
Sure, that's
that I know
interesting.
works. And then new stuff to the end, the bitter end. I don't close on anything good because I'm like, fuck it, I already did this. I want to work on all the new stuff. It doesn't matter if I people say like you got to do the new bit sandwich where you do a good bit, a new bit, and then a good bit. No, I'll close on a new shit. I don't care.
Yeah, I think especially if you were like at Madison visiting a club that you don't work at, maybe you do a little differently, right?
The first time I did Madison, I was just like, I'm just gonna do my best.
Absolutely. If you're out of town, I think, and I always assume anybody, not open micer, but anyone doing an open mic.
Because you want to impress those people, and you want to work at that club.
Absolutely,
you don't treat that like an open mic.
No,
maybe if you live there, you'll treat it like an open mic.
You already work here. Like, it's not like if you don't close strong, they're gonna be like, take James's week away.
Yeah, exactly.
They would rather you just work on stuff and have more good jokes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I felt like you, and it was your youth. I feel like you watched a lot more comedy and like were around. You like soaked it in for a long time before I
would watch like every open mic.
Jamming.
Like, I would be on an open mic and just watch the whole thing.
Yeah, for a while you did that.
Yeah.
Do you think that was obviously pretty helpful?
Yeah, I think so. I think it sometimes I try to watch mics again now. Like I'll try to watch like the mics here. And you know what? I like watching like the first half.
Yeah.
And then I'll like do my own thing and then come in during like a couple people before my set, watch them just to like get a read of the crowd. And I like seeing the new people sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'm like, I gotta leave.
Sometimes
I can't watch. Sometimes I can't. I just hate it too much. I can't watch some of the first people at the mics. But sometimes, because nobody's watching those first few people.
Exactly.
So I like doing it because I'm like, because if one of them's like even a little bit good, I'm like, oh, cool, okay.
Yeah, keep an eye on that person. And sometimes their badness is delightful.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes like, oh, that was amazing what I just saw.
Max Chapman was saying that he's like, the only way I got through open mics, and I subconsciously started doing this at one point. I just didn't, he put it into words. He was like, you just gotta, the only way to get through open mics, like watching the whole thing, is the really, really bad people. You just have to look at it like they're doing a Tim and Eric sketch.
Yeah, yeah,
You have to like look at it at an angle of like, this guy's doing a character. And that's the only way you can like get through a horrible mic, like watching the whole thing, is if you're just like, this is hilarious if he's like doing a character.
Yeah, because even like here, there's only a few people at the beginning. Yeah. Depending on who. Sometimes it's pretty good people right away. But
sometimes the list is packed.
But sometimes it's the first 5 are new. But if you go to just like a bar mic and watch the whole thing, just some random thing, it might be like 17 of those people, and then like one comic who knows what they're doing at the end.
And then they bomb because everybody's just like, we hate this whole thing.
Yes, we sometimes
but you're like, oh, this guy is good.
Yeah, but exactly. But then the audience is like, oh no, we've decided we no longer like the art of stand-up comedy. Yeah. Like the whole medium has been ruined for us for a while. It's like when you throw up a food you used to like, and then you can't eat it for a little while.
Yeah, that happened to me with oatmeal when I was a kid. But I don't. I feel like there's a lot of comics I think are funny in this scene that like just get nothing because they're too new or they hang out with maybe people that other people don't like, so they associate them with them. And I'm like, man, if they just I don't know. I like watching people, and like I have a mic that I do on Sundays.
Sure.
And I watch everybody's set. I'm not always like listening, but
you're aware of. You remember?
But I'm like hearing the laughs.
Like when I was at Red Menace, I always knew.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily couldn't repeat the joke to somebody, but I could tell you if they were doing
I would
well.
hear the laughs, and then maybe I'd start tuning in. But I'm ADHD, so I like tune out really easily. Even if my friend's up, I'm just like, I can't listen to this. But I hear the laughs, and I know, they're doing good based on that.
I think one bit of advice is like, I think not enough people do what you do, which is like come and watch a lot and soak it up. But then the extreme is then the people who think if they do that enough that it won't be hard when they like that you can somehow like prepare yourself out of the awkward phase of the beginning.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've told to people like, you just got to go do it. Like you got to prepare before,
Yeah,
but then you got to do it.
I've met people that are like, just watched mics for like my first year, or people that are like, well, I want to do comedy for 3 years and then use my star at Acme. And I'm like, just use it now.
Yeah.
If you have, it's on Tuesdays now. If you have every Tuesday free, just
Start now.
signing up. Start now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
I tell that to everybody. They're like, well, I want to get a good 5 before I use my star at Sisyphus or Acme or Comedy Corner. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah,
just do it.
It's gonna be a bit of a slow climb at the beginning anyway. Might as well start like 6 months because it's the thing you might sign up.
You might as
here.
well just get on the radar right away. Yeah,
Exactly.
As soon as you can.
It's not like
you're not going to get up.
No.
For like
No, you're gonna get up the first time on your star.
Yes.
And then for 3 minutes you'll be all right.
Yeah.
And then it might be 2-3 months before you get back up.
Or,
and then it might be
more.
a couple months after that.
Yeah.
So it's like I always tell people that too. Like, don't like not watch a show before you do stand up. That's kind of insane. I'm always weirded out by people who do that.
Yeah.
But like, go ahead and jump in the water. I mean, you might as well get a sense of it.
Yeah. And there's people that like watch this mic. There's comics that watch this mic every week, and like they are not even on. And I'm like, see, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You hang out, you make friends, you watch the show, you see what I feel like it's more productive to watch this mic than to learn about like comedy than like someone's Netflix special.
I think that's I think you're absolutely
because
right.
you're watching people in your scene doing an obtainable thing that you could, you're not like watching Chris Rock, and you're not learning much from that. You can enjoy that.
Yeah.
But I think like watching the local people that are doing well in the scene, or like, I feel like that's more productive to watch them.
Yeah.
Because that's where you are. This is where you're trying to go.
Yeah, it's something. Your level is probably somewhere in the middle of the first guy and the last person, right? Like, so it's like, you might not be as good as Emma Dollenberg yet, but you're definitely better than the guy who signed up as like, Skippy McGee or whatever, but exactly. And then I think it's especially if you're trying to get a sense of the scene because of the way the mic is structured here with the 3s and the 5s, and they kind of start with the people who don't work here, and by the end it's all people who work here visiting
it's like
out of town.
People that
comics.
don't work here, stars. Maybe a couple open micers they sprinkle in, and then it'll be like people they're kind of looking at maybe, and then everybody who works here.
Yeah, and it gives you a sense of like almost like a sedimentary rock where you can like track the geological thing. You can be like, okay, I think I can do better than the first couple of people. Maybe I could hang in the early thing. Boo, those people at the end are probably better than me.
Yeah. Maybe I don't want to follow any of those last half of the list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're totally right, and because watching. It's too intimidating to watch, Dana Gould's new special or Maria Bamford's new special.
Yeah.
It's like not only can you definitely not do that now, there's a good chance even if you work really hard for 30 years, you won't be able to do that.
Right. Or
they're
you can be
brilliant.
Close to that position.
Yeah, they're like brilliant.
Yeah.
But like, there's some really good comics that you can at least get a tangible, like you can get a handhold on. Like, oh, I know that.
I feel like Netflix, like crazy good comic specials. That's good for like. Maybe sparking inspiration or like enjoying it, but like I watch like people here to be like, when I was started, I was like you're learning from them, and
you can learn from their mistakes too.
Yes,
sometimes you see people and you go, "Ooh, I don't think I should not do that."
Yeah,
that was that's annoying what he does with the mic there,
yes.
or like, oh, she does this one thing too much. I want to not do that.
Yeah,
and then by the end you're like, oh, but I want to do the thing that the later lady did because she was really good. Yeah, it's much more. Yeah, it's much more accessible. So I think coming out to the mics is a huge thing, and I would recommend anybody who wants to do the contest. I always say if you want to do comedy and you've never been paid, you should just absolutely do the contest, and you should absolutely do it if you do it 1 year and you didn't win and you still haven't gotten paid or anything. Come back tonight.
If you don't get paid for 3 years, do it 3 years in a row.
There's no harm in doing it, but you should also, if you're serious about it at all, prep a little bit. Come to some shows, get a sense of it.
Write a little bit.
A little bit. I think the people who you can always see how much because we'll recognize people, right?
Yeah.
We'll see people that like, oh, that guy's been coming to a lot of mics. I've seen that girl at the sign-up, hanging out with the sign-up sheet. She's been around.
Yeah.
You can always tell when the contest comes around that they have more solid footing.
Yes.
Even if they're still really new.
Yeah.
Like they just look like
They're
they
trying.
know what's going on.
They're preparing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a little preparation is good. I think that's the balance, right? Preparation is great, but also you got to swim sooner or later.
Yeah.
Might as well jump in,
But then there's this weird group of people where they're like, they'll come out, hit every mic for a month up until the contest, do the contest, not win, and then you never see them until the next
Absolutely.
season.
It's
and
weird.
those guys fascinate me.
I'm the same way.
Because I'm like, what is it? Are you just trying to win the like? I don't get it.
Yeah, there's easier ways to get $1,000.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a nice prize.
Yeah,
but there's easier ways to get one. If that's the only thing that you care about is 1,000 American dollars.
That's
You could just get hired as an usher here and make $1,000.
Exactly, and then never have to do the
But I agree. The people who I totally understand the people who do it as a lark. That makes total sense. They're like, I always wanted to try this.
Yeah.
Or the people that look forward
like
to
those
it.
contest snipers that you only see them in the contests.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like they'll only do this contest or they'll only do the House of Comedy contest.
Yep. Always very strange to me.
And then they'll like make it to the semifinals each year, and you're like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Save that spot for somebody else.
Because you're not coming back. As soon as September 1 rolls around, you're back out again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always.
I get so pissed when they're like getting to the semis or the finals, and I'm just like, get out of here, dude. There's people that want to be in this. Like, there's people that are gonna keep doing this regardless of what happens tonight, and you're gonna be here next year and the next year and the next year and the next year.
Yeah, they look forward to this. They work for this all year, not and thought about it all year.
Yeah.
Which I actually think is one of the more interesting things about the contest is the range of preparedness and interest, where there's like some people who are like, oh, yeah, I forgot I signed up for that a couple months ago. Hey, we get free tickets, and they come out, and they don't prepare, and then they're just like, oh, whoa, that was hard. Anyway, bye, guys.
Yeah,
and they're unfazed, right?
Yeah.
But then there's everything from that to like people who are like, for the last 7 months, I have been working on this 3 minutes so that I can impress people at Acme so I can get more time at the mic.
2 minutes and 58 seconds on the dot.
And I was that guy. I was like, if a 0 is the guy who doesn't care and a 10 is the person who like will throw themselves off the building if they don't win, I was like a 9.5. And I didn't win, by the way.
Yeah.
I always like to remind people, very much didn't win.
Yeah, I mean, I never won my night, and you know.
And then that's the other lesson of the contest is it's good to be a winner. It's good to win. Ask Tia or Aiden or Andy or anybody else who's won recently. They like that $1,000.
Yeah.
But if you keep coming out, the mic is where it's at.
Yeah.
Watching, practicing.
Yeah.
Any other advice
I feel
for
like
people?
The contest is good.
Any other advice for the contestants? Any other? I always ask people for their.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
Don't care if you like it. Keep doing it. Doesn't matter. I mean, I feel like what the contest is good for is getting on Acme's radar sooner.
Yes.
I feel like that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the $1,000 and it's very fun.
Free tickets to shows, work with headliners, all that stuff.
Exactly. But if it's just you don't.
It's not a silver bullet.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not like.
Yeah.
It's not like if you lose, you're done, and it's not like if you win, you're in.
Yeah, like Tia Hannes, who won last year, has been getting a lot of time lately. Yeah. Well, she's been getting time because she's like real funny and she does well.
Yes,
but like
she works
definitely,
hard.
There's no way you can't factor that in when you're looking at the list. Like, yeah, she won the contest. She was pretty good,
Yeah.
Or even I always say, even in getting in the finals, because now they've seen you a couple times.
And I watched the finals last year. Tia objectively had the best set.
I completely.
She
agree.
won.
I completely agree.
I
remember saying after I filled out my judges sheet, I was like, well, if she doesn't win, I'm going to be kind of mad.
Yeah.
Whereas the year before, I thought it worked out really well with Lahiru and who won? But Lahiru was really close.
Didn't Andy win last year?
Yeah, Andy and Lahiru, but that was close.
Yeah.
Lahiru was really good too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tia was head and shoulders this year, and that happens sometimes. And
happens sometimes.
Some years
I called it. I actually thought Tia was going to win every contest in the city last year.
Interesting.
She was in the Comedy Corner one, the Sisyphus one, and the Acme one, and I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if she just won all of them.
Oh, that'd be something.
She got into the
Grand
semis.
Slam.
She got into the finals, I think, at the Comedy Corner and Sisyphus contest.
Wow.
And I was like, well, she's got to win Acme then.
Yeah, because the other ones, some of the other contests allow like working comics. There's different rules, know. But yeah, so this is when you're just in the competing with the amateur contest people. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Well, James, thanks again for
no
coming
problem.
out
Thanks
doing
for
the
having
podcast,
me.
and we'll see you at the contest.
See you around.